Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you are watching first part of What If Naruto Accidentally Trapped in a Dimensional Tear. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Let's finish this now. Sasuke said with a sneer as he used his cursed seal chakra. He made the hand seals for Chidori and knelt down, getting ready to kill Naruto in one last Joryo exchange. He looked across the river at someone he used to call a friend and his fox eyes got narrow. Now it was clear that Sasuke wasn't going to stop and go back to Konoha with him without a fight. It was also clear that someone or something other than Rasengan wasn't going to do the job. Naruto wasn't even sure what his strongest move would be when the Kyuubi chakra made the damage ball swirl for him. In all his life, he had never felt so much chakra in one place. Sasuke flapped his tough wings twice and then took off. Naruto charged into what he thought would be the end of the fight. When Naruto got close to his goal, time slowed down to a crawl. The Rasengan hummed quietly in his hand as he waited for his friend to come over. Something was not quite right about this Chidori. The noise and color were not right. It went deeper and was scarier. Naruto and Sasuke both let out a battle cry as their powers hit each other. Rasengan. Chidori. When the two strong chakras met, there was a quiet explosion that made Naruto's vision blurry. In a swirl of color, the two shinobi's chakras fought with each other. He gasped for air when the hand holding the broken pieces of the Chidori slammed into his chest. He swung his own hand out, and Sasuke's forehead protector got a sharp cut from his claw. Naruto thought as he struggled to stay awake, Sasuke will know who won this exchange. In some way, the chakra around them had come to life and formed an orb of light around them. They both looked at each other with understanding. The swirling chakra slowed things down, and Naruto was taken aback when Sasuke grabbed his hand. I must be having a weird sense of things, he thought as he saw that Sasuke looked a lot younger than he was. At the thought that this was the last time he would see his old friend, Naruto let out a soft smile. After that, he disappeared into nothingness as the chakra finally broke down. Kakashi thought to himself as he ran as fast as he could through the forest, this chakra is unbelievable. It's also not good. He told Pakun, this is bad. As the sky lit up, which Kakashi thought meant the end of a spectacular battle. It looked like the Kyuubi chakra was in the air, and he could only silently hope that Naruto had been able to control the energy explosion and keep the demon inside him from taking over. He also hoped Naruto had beamed enough chakra at him to keep him from dying. He was sure that Sasuke meant to kill Naruto. He knew all of his students well, but Sasuke's desire for power surprised him. He won't be killed by Naruto. He's going to fight hard, but he doesn't have it in him. When Kakashi got to what he thought was the battle spot, he was let down by what he saw. He was upset about what he didn't find, to be more specific. They were both no longer there. When Kakashi closed his eyes, he focused on the space around him, trying to feel the huge chakras that had been there recently. He could feel Naruto's trail as it left the battle, but not Sasuke's. He thought, I should have never taught him Chidori, as raindrops hit the window. It's my fault. Kakashi turned around with a sad face to tell Konoha the bad news. Naruto was likely dead, and Uchiha Sasuke, a missing ninja who had killed one of his own, was the one who did it. He opened his eyes and saw white pain. It hurt all over, and he couldn't remember what we just talked about. Our chakras are all over the place and... Bad boy, I haven't been here in a long time. The Kyuubi yelled in his head. Place like what, and don't call me a brat. Naruto told the nine-tailed fox that was living on his body. A chakra tear is what I call you. You'd be dead without me, the Kyuubi replied in a deep voice. The sound of his voice was wise and strong. It kind of made me want to do it. Well, you would be dead if not for me, so don't act like you were doing me any favors. Naruto told him. He didn't like talking to the Kyuubi. This thing was to blame for everything that went wrong in his life. He might have been a normal shinobi with a family, but a stupid demon fox had to be sealed inside him, which messed up everything. The Kyuubi yelled back, I would be free if not for you. Watch yourself when I decide to speak to you, brat, I am trying to help you. Well, I don't need your help, so leave, Naruto told the old demon, sticking out his tongue at him. The demon screamed and hit the cage hard. Finally able to calm down, the Kyuubi asked, you couldn't even beat that weak friend. How will you protect us against real enemies? He got angry when this brat talked to him. He hadn't had to deal with a person he couldn't kill in a long time. Nairo asked, "Defend us?" But he knew the answer. "It dies with me when I do." It must be nice to have such a strong ally, though. The demon said, "That's very comforting." Naruto almost jumped out of shock. "Yes, I can hear your thoughts. Never forget that I am a part of you." Naruto was getting antsy with this whole conversation and replied, yeah, okay. Get on with your point. Where are we, and why are you even talking to me?" "Shut up and listen, you jerk. We're in a chakra tear. My chakra joined with Sasuke's chakra and tore a hole in reality. We fell in, but your friend didn't." The demon waited a moment for the normally loud ninja to answer. He didn't understand. Naruto looked down and out. It was becoming clear to him what had just happened between him and his best friend, who was also his eternal rival. "I was in danger from Sasuke. He thought, would have killed me without the fox here." Kyuubi laughed quietly to himself. This spoiled brat was getting smarter. He was about to get some more tough ones. Well, that won't be a problem again for some time now. Unfortunately, we are stuck in this tear until another one occurs. High-level shinobi used to fight often, but there is too much peace now. It's likely that another tear won't occur for several years. This brought about a reply. Naruto blazed, "Years? You mean I'm stuck here with you for years?" He was having such bad luck today that he couldn't believe it. He didn't want to be alone with the Kyuubi at all. Also, being stuck by yourself would mean that Ero Sennin could not train you anymore. In fact, I think they would all think Sasuke killed him. He said, "They think that too, which is good for us." The Kyuubi came back into his mind. Naruto was about to lose it. Good? All my friends think I'm dead. You would think that was good, wouldn't you? He didn't think he could handle being alone again after all that time. The Kyuubi yelled at him, "Stop shaking, you brat. Our lives were in danger and I intend to fix it. A bargain if you will." Naruto had to work hard to calm down. He had been alone before, so he knew he could handle it again. "What kind of bargain? You remember the men who were after you to get to me. You will need to be strong to defeat them. They want to take me for their own purposes, and I serve no man. When we return they will try for me. For us. They will be surprised by what they find. I will train you in this tear." Naruto seemed to think for a while. It would be helpful to learn from the Kyuubi. He had been around for a long time and likely knew a lot of techniques that were against the rules. But he would want something in return. "What do you want from me?" "What I want is freedom. I know that it isn't possible now, but when you are on your deathbed it will be. The seal will weaken and you will then have the knowledge to release it. You will release me," the Kyuubi stated. Naruto quickly replied, "No deal. The whole reason you are inside me is because you attacked Konoha. Even if I die when I escape from this place, I would never do that." The Kyuubi roared with anger at this. He was pretty sure Naruto wouldn't go for it, but he thought it was worth a shot. "Fine. I had a feeling you might say that. I had a second idea anyway. I know a way to transfer my essence to another vessel. Most of my chakra would stay with you, but I would have my own body. If you died, I would still die with you, but at least I can roam free again." He gave this some thought for a while. "This means you would be out of my head, right?" "That's right." The demon knew that this would make things better for Naruto. One thing remains. How can I possibly learn enough in 2 years to make this deal worth it? Naruto sought answers. It was clear that the Kyuubi was shocked. He might be wrong about this boy being smarter than he thought. "Thank you for asking. The most interesting thing about a chakra tear is that time flows differently here. We may have 20 years here while only 3 pass in the real world." He didn't say that 2 years here could be 10 years there because he didn't think it was important to share that information. Not many people had those kinds of tears. They would train until they were ready, and then they would cut this place open again. "Okay." Naruto stated, "Deal. When I get out of here there will be no question as to who will be Hokage." A lot of time went by quickly for Naruto. Every day brought training and techniques that were beyond his wildest dreams. The Kyuubi taught him a lot, and he never got hungry. Most shinobi had forgotten what the Kyuubi knew. He got stronger and taller. He also grew to respect the Kyuubi a lot. While Konoha was away, they talked about other things. They never brought up the reason the demon attacked him. When Naruto got too big for his clothes, he quickly wore his old shirt torn up as a loincloth. His jacket, pants, and shoes were thrown away, and his beard got longer and longer. He thought he was about 20 years old when the tear opened. The Kyuubi then chose to leave the world of the living. Naruto got ready for the changes that were coming, and he walked into the light. His first thought when he stepped back into the real world as a man was, "This isn't the waterfall. I don't know why you thought it would be. The exit would be where the other tear was formed," the Kyuubi stated. Naruto decided it made sense after giving it some thought. He quickly realized that there would also be people fighting here. As soon as he arrived, a stray kunai flew past where his head had been. He thought that his presence might be confusing and not appreciated. In a powerful burst, he sent his chakra to his feet and flipped into a nearby tree. He quickly turned around to look at what was going on. He looked down at the ninja standing below him through the branches. The man looked worn out and not fit to fight. Naruto thought the thing next to him was his opponent, or at least what was left of him. A terrible cut went across his chest, and the edges of the cut were burned. It had to have been some kind of electrical attack jutsu. Most likely sent through some kind of weapon. When he felt another kunai coming toward him, it broke his thoughts. Right before the tree he was standing on caught fire, he quickly jumped to another tree nearby. The ninja yelled, "Who are you? Where did you come from?" It was... Naruto closed his eyes and pulled on the Kyuubi chakra with practiced ease. His eyes went from being bright blue to blood red, and the holes that used to be his pupils got smaller as they looked at the man's shoulder pad. The symbol was probably only visible to a Hyuga from this far away, but the Kyuubi's abilities made him smarter. It looked out for the hidden village of sand. They were on the same side as the leaf when Naruto last heard. Naruto yelled, "I am a ninja of the leaf," to see how the man would react. Before he passed out from exhaustion, he looked like he was happy. He didn't seem scared of me, though. Leaf and sand must still be friends. He jumped from the tree to get to the person. He wasn't familiar to Naruto, but it was hard to say how much time had passed. He walked over to the other defeated ninja and gave him a quick look that told him everything he needed to know. A sound ninja who is now dead. Soon after, Naruto was in his pants, but the sand ninja's blade had cut Naruto's shirt. "Well, it's going to be hot on the way there anyhow." The Kyuubi told him, "Don't forget our deal. Free me." Naruto was happy. In the 8 years or so that he trained with Kyuubi, he learned a lot about seals. When he hit the ground with his palm, he bit his thumb and did some hand seals. He yelled, summoning no jutsu. In the cloud of smoke, a small fox showed up. It took a contract to call on legendary creatures, but the techniques were first made to make hunting easier. Naruto and the Kyuubi didn't have to work hard to make a version that could call a fox. Kyuubi thought it would be bigger. The Kyuubi said in a scary voice, "You wouldn't dare." Naruto was happy. "If you behave in this one, I might be able to find you another boat." He smiled as he did someone. Handed seals and slammed his right hand into the fox's behind while holding it down with his left hand. For a moment, the fox howled in pain, but then its eyes turned into something a little smarter. Naruto felt a very small amount of chakra leave his body and move to the other body. The piece of the Kyuubi's mind was also leaving, but he could still feel the path it took to the new body. "Good, I always know where he is." The little fox said, "I hate you, you jerk." Its voice didn't sound scary at all. Naku laughed out loud. In between laughs, Naruto managed to say, "That's right." He wiped the tears from his eyes and looked at his new friend. Not many ninjas would have known that the thing was not like other animals because it had so little chakra. That was going to be very helpful. Anyway, like I said, be good for a few years, and we might work out something else. Plus, you're cute. Naruto then picked up the unconscious sand ninja and began walking in the direction he thought led to the village of sand. "This is how it is," the Kyuubi grumbled. Naruto turned around to follow the fox as it ran off. It looked like this year would be interesting. Once Naruto got close to the hidden sand village, he saw that 2 ninjas were following him. This scared him. From what I can tell, the war between sand, leaf, and sound got worse while Naruto was away. It was clear that these ninja didn't like the thought of a man with no clothes and a wild beard carrying one of their own hurt people into their city. Naruto had his leaf head protector on as an armband, but even he thought he looked pretty messy for a ninja, especially one who was out on duty. When he got to the city gates, the 2 ninja finally came out. Naruto's eyes lit up with recognition. Tamari was the girl. She was a fan user who fought in the Chunin exam a long time ago. Naruto almost didn't believe he could remember her name. He was more shocked by the other face. Yes, Shikamaru for sure. He looked like he was going to be lazy. It seemed like a long time had passed since Naruto had last been here, but not nearly as long as the 8 years he had spent training with Kyuubi. It was clear that Shikamaru didn't know Naruto. Why would he do that? Naruto was thought to be dead, and he looked years older than he should have. The unique whisker marks on his cheeks were hidden by his beard. When Tamari saw the body Naruto was carrying over his shoulder, she said, "Hand me Nagishi-sensei." Naruto shrugged and did what she asked, carefully handing her the limp body of a man. Once she looked at Shikamaru and got his nod, she ran into the city and toward the medical block. Shikamaru quietly scratched his shoulder and asked, "What's your name?" "Should I say my real name?" That's what Naruto told himself. Naruto almost missed Kyuubi at that time.
That would have been interesting for him to hear.
Naruto shut his eyes and looked for the fox along the faint chakra trail. "I can see that you are already in town." Shikamaru asked the same question again, which broke Naruto's train of thought. "What is your name?" he asked, taking a more conservative stance. "I don't recognize you, and I warn you, if you are a spy." Naruto chose that spot to stop him. He screamed, "I am not a spy. I am the great Uzumaki Naruto, missing ninja of Konoha, presumed dead, and now returned to take my place as the greatest ninja in the history of the leaf." Shikamaru thought to himself, he barks like Naruto, but he's way too old. He gave the man who said he was Naruto a nod after giving it some thought. He thought, this is way too much trouble for me. He sighed and looked at the man in front of him again. He really wanted to believe. "Come with me then. The cage will know what to do." Gaara of the Sand could feel Naruto's Kyuubi chakra a long time before Shikamaru and Naruto even walked into the building. Gaara had last heard that Naruto had died while making the plan to bring Sasuke back. He was shocked when he heard that because he had fought both Naruto and Sasuke and didn't think Naruto could lose to that Uchiha clan star. "That kid wasn't even good enough to beat me, let alone Naruto." Gaara said, "Welcome back, Naruto," when he sensed that they were coming in. When he turned around, he was shocked to see the person who held the chakra. A young man in his early 20s with long, rough blonde hair and a beard. Someone was standing in front of him wearing only stolen pants and his leaf head protector as an armband. It didn't look like that person could be Naruto, but the chakra made it clear. "This guy is the cage?" Naruto yelled out loud, pointing at Gaara. Of course, Naruto had last seen him, he was on his back and out of chakra. He was taken to safety by Tamari and Kankuro. "Naruto, be polite," Shikamaru hissed in his ear. There was still something off about calling the person next to him by that name. Gaara said, "No, it's okay." Shikamaru remembered, he hasn't seen me in a while. "You remember what I was like." He thought about the Gaara that they saw in the hospital, wanting to hurt someone so badly. Those two were the only ones there at that time. After his fight with Naruto, the cage changed a lot, but Naruto didn't know it yet. To get out of the meeting, Shikamaru said, "I need to go check on Tamari." Gaara nodded and Naruto and him were alone for a moment. Naruto asked, sitting in the chair that Gaara had just pointed to, "What is Shikamaru doing here?" "He is a leaf Chunin. He is an ambassador from the leaf, and a Junin. Although, I imagine that his request for the position had something to do with his involvement with my sister Tamari," Gaara said. Naruto gave a shrug. The last time he saw them, they were fighting in the Chunin exam, but this match was very different from that. He wasn't interested in his old teammates' romantic interests right now. The talk stopped for a moment, and Naruto slouched down in his chair. He only asked, "How long?" Gaara raised an eyebrow when he heard that. His age made him think something was wrong, but he didn't know what.
"You have been missing for 4 years.
Presumed dead. Gaara told me." "Where did you go?" he asked himself in silence. That question was off limits. The leaf had to question Naruto because he was a leaf genin. It looks like time moved more slowly out here. He thought, not bad at all. All of my friends would be about 16 years old. Gaara said, "Konoha will be very interested to see you alive. You would be surprised how many people seem to be distraught at your funeral." "They had a funeral for me?" Naruto was shocked. He knew they thought he was dead, but he didn't think they would have gone that far without a body. Gaara picked up on Naruto's thought and said, "Well, Kakashi was pretty sure you were dead." Taking a moment to find the right word, he said, "You have a very distinct chakra." When Kakashi couldn't feel it anywhere, he came to the only conclusion. "I guess it makes sense. The wise ones know how the Kyuubi chakra feels." He thought that since it was no longer in this world, they must have decided I was really dead and not just missing. Thoughts of people being upset that he was gone made him feel a little better. Getting praise was nice. "I am having a room prepared for you. I will have fresh clothes sent to you, and you can shave and cut your hair if you wish. Tomorrow morning, at 8 o'clock, I want you to report here. We will talk then of your return to Konoha." Naruto nodded, he was anticipating a bath. "I ask that you don't leave your room tonight if you can help it. The less people that know about your return right now the better." Naruto said, "Sure," and he followed the sand ninjas out of the room. "The Akatsuki are still dangerous, but not as strong as they were when they came after me. The demons inside Naruto will come after him as soon as they hear he is back." Gaara thought, and then he told one of his helpers, "Get me Shikamaru." Shikamaru went into the hospital to find Temari. He saw her sitting against the wall in the corner. He asked her about her sensei Nagishi. "How is he?" "It was dead," she said. Whatever jutsu that sound ninja used had a lasting effect. Assuming that it was the sound ninja. For a moment, the implication hung in the air. "I don't think Naruto killed him," Shikamaru finally said. "It doesn't make any sense. Why would he do that and then come waltzing in here? Where has he been that he hasn't had a chance to shave or cut his hair? What happened to all of his clothes? It looks like he has been living in the wilderness alone or something." "So you're sure it's him?" she asked. He replied, "Gaara seems to think so." He briefly put his hand on her shoulder. He could only say, "I'm sorry about your sensei. He wasn't good at this." On the other hand, Temari wasn't good at handling the news of a fallen soldier. She had been sad about Kankoro's death for a long time. She told him, "Don't worry about it," which he did. Shikamaru wasn't going to push it because this is a war after all. He knew she was being tough. At that very moment, one of Gaara's helpers walked in. He went up to the two shinobi. He told her, "Kazekage wants to see you." Shikamaru sighed. "How did I get myself into all of these tough situations?" He saw Temari. "I will come by your place tonight, okay?" He wanted to know. "Sure," she replied as she watched him leave for her brother's office. If she knew her brother at all, Naruto's appearance meant she had to do something. Naruto had just finished shaving when he felt the Kyuubi outside the window. He opened the door on the other side of the room to let the desert air in. Soon after, the Kyuubi jumped into the room and started grumbling. "What are you doing here?" Naruto asked with a mean laugh. A Kyuubi shook his fur very hard, which made sand clouds fly into the air. The fox made noises that Naruto thought were laughter. "I wasn't built for this kind of environment," he mumbled. "And if you must know, I came to watch you turn your face into hamburger." "Shut up. This is my first time shaving," Naruto told the little animal, sticking out his tongue. The Kyuubi was busy going around and around in the corner of the room and missed it. Once he had done that for a moment, he laid down comfortably. Naruto's distinctive whisker marks were hard to see because of the cuts and nicks he had given himself. In a few hours, they would be fully better. He asked, "Why are you really here?" With a hint of seriousness in his voice. "I got bored hunting." "I am sure you would be surprised to note that rodents aren't very good conversationalists," the Kyuubi said. Naruto grabbed the scissors from the counter and said, "You were lonely." He got ready to do something with his hair. He never thought getting a bath, shave, and haircut would feel so good. He had been cutting his hair with a kunai for 8 years and was really enjoying it. "I wasn't by myself," the fox said in defense. Naruto laughed off the jibe, "Are you sure you want to do that, brat? I mean, your shaving was so good." He then got to work on his hair. He knew what it was like to be by yourself. The Kyuubi couldn't just go talk to anyone. If people knew that an old demon was stuck inside a baby fox, they would likely try to kill him to get back at him. For Naruto, the fox was the only person it could talk to, even though it had its own body. After cutting his hair, Naruto said, "Well, if you're going to hang out with me all the time, I need to call you something other than Demon Fox. We don't want people to know it's you in there. The Kyuubi said, then call me Kit. It made sense, since you had trapped me in this tiny body. He let out a dog. Like yawn as Naruto got into bed. He asked in a lazy way, what did the other demon vessel have to say? He replied, we go back to Konoha tomorrow. To be honest, I'm a little scared, he told himself. He hoped that Konoha still had room for him. He got up early in the morning. The demon chakra kept him awake, so he didn't need as much sleep as most people did. He was a troublemaker as a child in part because he had so much extra energy that he needed to burn off. He got into the habit of only sleeping as much as his body needed while training with the Kyuubi. He then spent the rest of his time training. He did a few hundred push-ups and sit-ups to warm up. Then he quickly took a shower and got dressed. Gaara had sent him clothes that weren't his style, but he wasn't going to mind. An open, cropped black shirt with short sleeves went with the brown pants at the waist. He put his shield back where it belonged on his head and was about to leave when he thought of Kit. There was a small fox sleeping in the corner of the room. He moved his foot over to wake it up. Kit woke up and said, watch it. The ball of fur started to stretch out slowly to wake up. Is it time to go? Someone told me that demons could be so cute. He thought to himself. Out loud, he only said, yes. For a moment, he thought about making fun of the fox for sleeping too much, but decided it would be better not to. He was going to need his help again, so it wasn't smart to take your resources away. Naruto said, let's go, and he and Kit walked out the door together. The people in Konoha were not going to like that he had a fox following him around. Again, it was a clear sign that the monster that killed all of their loved ones was locked up inside Naruto. At least Naruto felt his spirit. They would get angry at Kit for destroying the village if they found out that the fox was where the demon's mind actually lived. They met Shikamaru on their way to the Kage's office. Good morning, said Shikamaru. He looked past Naruto to see the fox following him. I didn't know you used pets. I didn't know that when I left, Naruto said. While I was away, this one liked me. He liked me so much that he hasn't stopped following me around, Naruto said with a wry grin. The fox replied with a growl. It doesn't sound like he likes you, Shikamaru said. Ninja tools that caused trouble were pets. They needed to be trained and had their own thoughts. The kunai was a more reliable weapon. In answer, Naruto just smiled and shrugged. The fox asked, where was he yesterday? He didn't like the thought of Naruto's pet running around the village last night. They still did not know where he had been or what he had been up to for the past 4 years. There was still a chance of spying going on. Roaming around the village, I imagine. His name is Kit, by the way, Naruto said. Shikamaru could only think, at least he was honest. They were now at the door to the Kage's office. The door was opened with 3 quick knocks, most likely by the sand that Gaara controlled. Naruto was led in by Shikamaru. Gaara moved some papers around on his desk and then looked up. He hated paperwork more than anything else, but as a Kage, he had to get used to it. It wasn't always running from one danger to another to protect the village. When he saw Kit growling at him, he was about to say something to Naruto. The Kyuubi is here. The demon inside him screamed. Gaara shook his head in pain. He was getting used to these attacks, but they were still painful. Once in a while, Shukaku would get excited about something and let go of his guard. After Gaara's first fight with Naruto, the demon tried to persuade him that Naruto's power came from the Kyuubi and that the Kyuubi should be killed. Gaara knew it wasn't true. To be a demon vessel and turn out like Naruto, you had to have real spirit from the inside. Gaara was the only one who could really understand that. He pushed the crazy priest down again. I am sure that Naruto has the Kyuubi. I already know. Gaara's will stop Shukaku's crazy talking. Naruto asked, are you okay? His voice had a hint of worry in it. He knew what it was like to have a bad spirit inside your head. He gave Kit a soft kick and whispered, behave. You are drawing attention to yourself. Kit became quiet and jumped up on a nearby chair, clearly angry. Naruto asked Gaara again, is Shukaku giving you trouble? When she didn't answer. Shikamaru seemed to be lost. Because he spent so much time with Gaara, he knew about the demon inside him. He knew it wasn't a secret, but Naruto seemed to know. They looked like they knew a lot about each other. Shikamaru was aware that he was lacking something. "I have him under control," Gaara told him. The young ninja shrugged and left, saying, "Shikamaru, you can wait outside." He wasn't interested in what these two wanted to talk about because it was bothering him. Gaara looked at Kit more closely after Shikamaru left. He thought that the small animal still had the demon chakra sealed because he couldn't feel any of the things that he would associate with it.
Gaara asked for Naruto's file at the funeral, and Tsunade gave it to him. Gaara wanted to know everything he could after the boy beat him up and, in a way, changed him. Having a pet fox was an odd thing for Naruto to have. People in the village who knew about Naruto's past would be very turned off by it. "I know about your past," Gaara told her. Naruto felt a lot of different emotions from the simple words. There was only one person in front of him who could really understand what he had been through. Naruto said in a soft voice, "Don't tell anyone." Gaara knew that he didn't want anyone to know about it. In a perfect world, Gaara would have liked it even more if no one in the village could talk about his illness.
"I haven't and I won't. I respect you greatly, Naruto," Gaara stated. Naruto wasn't surprised when sand began to leak out of the nearby gourd. "Your strength in dealing with our condition inspired me to become what I am today. I live to protect my village now." He thought he knew what was going to happen next. His wrists were tightly bound together by the sand that was around them. After being alert, Kit got up from his chair, but when Naruto looked at him to warn him, Kit sat back down. He already knew what it meant when Naruto asked, "What does this mean?" "Still, they don't trust me. Things must be very bad. Your Hokage requested this by way of a messenger bird. She wishes for you to be bound until she can question you on the events surrounding Sasuke's defection to Orochimaru and its relation to your prolonged disappearance," Gaara stated sorrowfully. "If you attempt to perform any jutsu, the sand will react and crush the bones in your hands, rendering them useless." Naruto made a face. He asked himself, "What do I need to do to show these people I'm not a spy?" "Fine," he said out loud. He gave Kit a nod, and Kit got up and trotted over to him. "Let's get this over with then. I assume that I am going to be traveling under guard to Konoha?" He and Temari walked in when the doors opened again. When they got close to Naruto, Shikamaru whispered in his ear, "I'm so sorry about this. We've had enough of being lied to, and we just want to make sure you're still on our side. I hope you can put up with this until we know for sure." Naruto smiled and nodded. "It's not that far of a journey," he said, calming things down in the loud Naruto way. "Let's go." Naruto turned around and waved goodbye to Gaara. He then marched out of the building with Kit close behind. Temari and Shikamaru quickly got over their shock and ran to catch up. Naruto could feel a group of ninjas following them not long into the journey. The trip probably wasn't going to be easy anyway. The sound must have seen that two ninjas were traveling alone with what looked like a prisoner. That target was way too good to pass up. Shikamaru and Temari didn't see them for a few hours. Shikamaru said quietly as he jumped from tree to tree, "They are following us." It seemed likely to him that the attack would happen soon. The fact that Naruto knew about it was shown to Shikamaru by his nod. "Since you can't really fight, stay between me and Temari, and we will protect you." Naruto turned his head away. "Temari is a long-range fighter and you aren't exactly a taijutsu expert. That won't work and you both know it," he said. "We have no choice. You can't use any seals." Horo had to not give this much thought. It didn't look like her. "I will be fine, I promise. These guys are probably mostly Chunin anyway. I can take them, even without the use of my hands. Fight them how you need to, and don't worry about me." Naruto said that. Temari cut Shikamaru off just as he was about to protest again. Naruto is right.
If he thinks he can handle it, let him.
We need space to fight, and I don't watch over ninjas who can't take care of themselves. Temari smiled in a way that showed she was excited for the fight. She wanted to get back at her teacher. Hikaru thought, "She may be my girlfriend, but man, she's scary sometimes." While he was getting his chakra ready for the fight, he showed her some of the hand signals they had learned together. It wasn't the first time they fought. While Temari was still in mid-jump, she turned around and grabbed the fan from her back. They were being chased by ninjas, so she said, "Cutting wind jutsu," and pointed her fan's strong blast of wind at them. They were able to avoid getting hit by the blast, but the trees that were in the way of them and Temari were destroyed. He put a kunai in his mouth and made some hand seals while the trunks were still in the air blocking the sun. In the shadows, he said, "Ninpo, shadow walking no jutsu," and then he was gone. Naruto thought the combo was great. Even though the ambushers were caught, the battle wasn't over yet. They still didn't have enough people, so Temari jumped up into some nearby trees to avoid incoming shuriken. This left Naruto and Kit to protect themselves. Naruto hid behind a tree for safety and thought about the battle plan. Temari cut the trees up with her fan. The attack was meant to hit the enemy, but the really goal was to make moving shadows for Shikamaru out of the flying objects. The shadow walking technique helped him get into the shadows quickly. Moving shadows are harder to guess than still ones. That makes it hard for an enemy to get away. Naruto's thoughts were broken by the screams of the sound ninjas as Shikamaru jumped out from behind one of them and stuck the kunai in his back. He was gone again before anyone could do anything. I think this attack has only one weak spot, Naruto thought. It looks like the enemy leader thought the same thing. The group moved in back to back after hearing some commands. Shikamaru showed up again in the shade of a tree near Naruto after a few failed attempts.
He cursed, "Damn," and was out of breath from using so much chakra. Temari was busy distracting the enemy with short bursts of air from her fan. He said, "They got it quickly, and the shadows are gone now."
He got down on his knees and began to think about what was going on. As a chunin, Naruto had seen him do it before. Temari yelled from behind some trees, "Any ideas?" She liked Shikamaru's intelligence a lot more now than she did before. Temari knew it wasn't a good sign when he didn't answer. He was going to get more time to think. He watched as she jumped into the air. As she spun, she spread her fan out behind her back. She yelled, "Violent tornado jutsu." As she spun faster, a column of wind formed around her, blocking any attempts to throw weapons at her. As soon as she got out of the back of the tornado, she jumped back up into the tree where she had been. She made hand seals and said, "Control." The tornado moved toward the enemy while she closed her eyes and held the last seal she made. That's nice, Naruto thought. They'll be busy for a while. He looked over at Kit, who was nodding to show that he agreed. Kit said in a whisper, "These humans look good, especially the woman. I think they are going to need your help in a minute though." Naruto asked, "Why is that?" As he followed Kit's gaze to the hunched figure of Shikamaru. Shikamaru was sitting in front of a tree when the leader of the sound ninja team came out of it with his kunai ready. He told himself, this is going to be hard without hands. He pushed himself forward at a blurring speed by sending his chakra to his legs. The sound Junin had just a second to look up before Naruto's foot hit him in the face and launched him into the air. He thought that his enemy would stop when he hit the tree, but it looks like Naruto's kick was a little too strong. When the sound leader finally hit the ground, he broke the tree in half. It made Shikamaru look up in shock. He said, "Thanks for the save," shocked by Naruto's powerful kick. Shikamaru thought to himself, "He moved so fast that he made me think of Rock Lee." "No problem. You might want to check on Temari." "I don't hear her tornado anymore," Naruto said, keeping his eyes on the sound ninja as he slowly stood up. With some chakra, he must have been able to stop the full force of the kick. He thought, this guy is pretty good. When Shikamaru looked up, he saw Temari desperately defending herself from the last three sound ninjas. Hikaru asked Naruto, "Can you handle this guy?" Naruto smiled in an animalistic way. Shikamaru ran to help Temari when he heard the confidence in his voice and said, "With pleasure." The sound ninja said, "You are good," wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth. "You surprised me that time, but it won't happen again." Naruto let out a loud laugh. He could hear Shikamaru using the shadow bind move in the background. The other ninjas would soon be taken care of with Temari's help. He had time to work on this one. He hadn't done anything besides fight Kyuubi in a long time. It was clear that the sound ninja thought Naruto didn't care about his threat. This man had his hands tied and couldn't use any jutsu. He was also laughing at a sound ninja at the Junin level. The person threw a shuriken at Naruto because they wanted to silence him. While the weapon spun around his head, Naruto moved his head a few centimeters to the side. He then almost stood still. As Kit walked over to a nearby tree, he said, "I'm going to take a bath while you kill this jerk." Like a cat, he licked his paws to clean himself. Naruto laughed. The fox spoke, but the sound ninja didn't hear it. He thought the blonde boy didn't think he needed his pet to beat him. The man was so angry that he ran forward and made a lot of hand seals. He yelled, "Earth Spike Jutsu." For a split second, the ground below Naruto shook. Then it came to life and turned into tall, dangerous spires. As Naruto jumped into a back flip, the attack missed him easily, but he ended up in the path of several kunai. He turned around in the air and grabbed one by the handle with his mouth. He landed cleanly, just in time to avoid an incoming kick because he was aware of the other weapons. Naruto growled with the kunai clenched in his teeth, "You had your turn. Now it's mine." He kicked the enemy several times, which pushed them back. His body started to change as he used more and more of the strong Kyuubi chakra. Naruto thought the battle was moving more slowly. When he had this much raw power, it was always like this. While the chakra wrapped itself around him, each kick got stronger and faster. His body took on a faint red glow. Naruto saw his chance. He quickly tripped the sound Junin by lowering himself to a low crouch. The man was about to fall when Naruto flipped into the air. Naruto used his chakra to spit the kunai out of his mouth very quickly. When he got to land, the man was already dead. Naruto let go of the Kyuubi chakra when he was done with his job and went back to normal. There were shocked looks on Shikamaru and Temari's faces when he turned around. Shikamaru said, "We came to help, but then we saw that you had it under control." How much stronger he is now than he was before. That was really cool. He probably could have killed us both at any time, even though Gaara was bound. At that point, Shikamaru chose to trust Naruto. He looked at Temari. He said, "Free him." She didn't wait around. She made some hand seals and bit her thumb as she walked over to Naruto. Release. The sand disappeared, letting him move his hands around. He yelled, "What? You could have released me before that mess and you didn't?" Shikamaru replied, "We had to be sure. Plus, we didn't have time then." Kit was laughing, sounding like he said, "Don't cry about it now, you didn't even need your hands." Naruto turned around and saw Kit smiling as he rubbed his legs against Temari's. He laughed silly things, so Temari slapped him on the head. "Cute fox," she said, and then she turned around and walked back toward Konoha. Kabuto was interested to see Naruto finish off the sound Junin. Ninjas like that one could be thrown away, but they were useful for finding out how strong an enemy was. Kabuto put his glasses up on the bridge of his nose as the boy with blonde hair killed him. She thought, "He's back. My spies in sand were right. It's possible that I wasn't being fair to them. We were sure Sasuke was dead after he told us what happened in the Valley of the End." He turned around and went back to Sound Village. "It doesn't matter anymore. We can't really punish him for lying. Orochimaru will be interested in what's going on." Naruto and the others got to the gates of Konoha late at night. When the Anbu guards at the gate saw Shikamaru and Temari, they gave them a nod. They already knew what to expect. One of them got mad when they saw that Naruto wasn't tied down like they had been told. The Anbu asked, "Why hasn't the prisoner been bound as asked?" He sounded like an older man from the way he spoke. He probably remembered the attack by the Kyuubi and knew who Naruto was. Shikamaru said with anger, "Because he isn't a prisoner. He is a returning Konoha ninja, and, judging from what I have seen, he may be your boss soon." The Anbu said, "Let's think about that." He said, "That demon is not going to be in our group." In a more angry tone than he probably meant. He then saw the fox lying at Naruto's feet. It gave him a scary growl. He was an adult man with a high rank as an Anbu, but the fox seemed to scare him. He stood back and made some signs to scare away evil spirits. Naruto was amused. Nairo said, "Let me tell you this. When I left here, I was a child. Now I am an adult. Try any of your crap, and you might regret it. Please tell everyone." When Naruto got back to town, he didn't want to scare half the village, but sometimes you had to. He told this guy what he thought about how he was being treated now. Shikamaru wasn't sure what to do. He had heard people call Naruto a demon before, but he always thought it was because of all the tricks he played as a child. What this Anbu did to Kit was strange. Shikamaru put this information away until he could look into it more. Just as things were about to get worse, the other Anbu took off his mask, revealing Hyuga Neji. He said, "Welcome back, Naruto." The Hyuga looked like it thought for a moment before bending slightly. Everyone there was shocked, even Naruto. This level of respect from the Hyuga prodigy had never been seen before. After a short time, Naruto returned the touch. He said, "It's good to be back. It's good to see you as well, Shikamaru. How long have you been away now?" Neji was curious. 2 years. "I've been in touch with the Hokage," Shikamaru said. "No, you haven't. I will take you to the Hokage now," said Neji. As he turned away from his Anbu partner, he used his Byakugan. Naruto scrunched up his brow. The other Anbu said, "Those aren't our orders. We have to report to the council now." After quickly turning around, Neji hit the man several times and knocked him out. Shikamaru, Temari, and Naruto all took up fighting positions right away. Neji said, "No, it's okay. Let me explain. Things in Konoha aren't what they seem." The other Anbu said, "Those aren't our orders. We have to report to the council now." After quickly turning around, Neji hit the man several times and knocked him out. Shikamaru, Temari, and Naruto all took up fighting positions right away. Neji said, "No, it's okay. Let me explain. Things in Konoha aren't what they seem."
Neji went over to the Anbu who was lying down and took his pulse.
Once he was sure he hadn't killed the other ninja, he went back to Naruto and the others. "The council has taken control of the city."
After they heard that Naruto had survived and was returning, there was a riot. A few of the older ninjas and most all of the council made a play for power.
Somehow, they managed to drug Tsunade, and they are holding her inside the city. Naruto asked, "How is that possible?" That made him very angry. What about Kakashi and the others? Surely they wouldn't let that happen. Unfortunately, all of the powerful ninjas who might have sided with the Hokage are away on missions. I asked the council if I could be one of the Anbu to greet you all at the gate. Since they assumed I had hard feelings after our fight in the Chunin exam, they agreed. Neji told them. Why would Naruto being alive cause something like this to happen? I know he was a prankster when he was a kid, but isn't this a little extreme? Shikamaru wanted to know. Neji himself looked a little lost for the first time. Well, they claim that Naruto is the one who corrupted Sasuke into defecting. They also claim he is a spy and dangerous to the village. They have promised to release the Hokage after the crisis has passed. Nobody that really knew Naruto believed their lies, of course, but those of us that did are outnumbered by far, he groaned. Naruto, it may be better if you stay away from the village until we can free the Hokage. Like hell, was Naruto's loud and quick response. I thought you might say that, so we had a plan, Neji said with a silent laugh. He reached back into his pouch and took out a small ball with a fuse on it. Neji lit the fuse and threw it into the air. He asked, "What was that?" It made him a little mad that Kid and Temari were not paying attention because they were too busy arguing over a stick. The ball Neji threw suddenly went off in a flash of light, which caught their attention. Neji waved them along and said, "The signal." The group sped into the city without making a sound. Hinata looked up at the sky over the faraway west gate with her Byakugan eyes. It hurt my gut to wait for the signal. This was the first time she had really done something like this. Neji should have picked someone else, because I can't do it. She thought very hard. I'm going to mess it up, and then things will get really exciting. When she saw the dim flash in the distance, it made her stomach turn. Now is the time. We need you, Naruto-kun. Hinata told herself, you can do this. Her mask went over her mouth and hair as she reached up to her face. It was mostly silent, and she was wearing a form-fitting black bodysuit. Her eyes were the only thing that showed. Neji insisted that if she was seen, they couldn't prove who she was unless they caught her. She didn't think it would help because so few people in the village had the Byakugan eyes. That meant the council could only fight the whole Hyuga clan, which they would not do because it would be too risky. Everything was crazy. Why do so many people in the village dislike Naruto-kun? She still couldn't believe that the council was going to put him to death for treason without a trial. It couldn't have happened at a worse time. Rock Lee, Neji, and herself were the only ones left in Konoha who could help the Hokage and Naruto. She told herself, how could we all have been so stupid? The butterflies got even worse as she walked across the roof of the building she had been standing on. She tied a rope around her middle and hooked the other end to an air vent on the other side of the building. She took one last deep breath as she stood on the edge and then jumped. She had carefully thought out how long the rope was ahead of time, and it caught her just at the right time. The rope pulled her back toward the building as it got tight. She let some chakra out of her feet and landed quietly against the side of it, right above a window. She turned over and peered in. They were right when they said that the council didn't trust any of the high-level shinobi to protect the Hokage. If they knew what was going on, too many of them would probably be on her side. So, some of the council's helpers sat nearby and played cards. There was a secret that only the council and the Anbu acting as their lapdogs knew about the Hokage being held here. The two men didn't seem to think that anyone was going to come after them. Being ignorant is bliss. After one last deep breath, Hinata launched her attack. With her kunai ready, she pushed hard against the wall and cut the rope as she swung back towards the window. The two men took a long time to react when she fell through the window and hit the ground. She used the speed she had to get herself ready for the first attack. Because the hallway was so small, the other two men would have to use their taijutsu against hers. They were in trouble because she was good at taijutsu. She easily blocked the first awkward counterattack and then hit back with 3 soft hits. There was no doubt that the man hadn't had a real fight in years. Because they didn't keep their skills up to date while strutting around the village saying they fought in the Kyuubi attack, that's what they get. She turned her feet around and sidestepped the man, leaving him speechless. There wasn't much difference between the second opponent and the first one. The first one was holding his chest and rolling around on the floor. She got ready for her counterattack after blocking several blows that were aimed at her vital points. She was much better at taijutsu than most other ninja, even though she was thought to be the weakest member of the Haiga clan. She quickly moved out of the way of the man's punch at her face when she saw him stretch his arm too far. She then touched the chakra points on his arm. After a few seconds, it hung uselessly from his side. He asked, panting from the first real workout he had had in a while. "How did you find out?" Hinata thought about answering him for a moment, but she decided not to because she didn't want him to remember her voice when he woke up. If their coup didn't work, she didn't want this guy to find out who she was. Konoha needed to get their Hokage back in order to win the war. Once more, she pushed herself into the attack. The man didn't last long because he could only use one arm. They were both knocked out, so she searched them for the room key. After getting what she wanted from the second man, she got ready for what was inside and opened the door. An old woman who looked a bit like Tsunade, who Hinata was used to seeing, was crying quietly to herself in the corner. It was clear that she was crazy. She took out a small flask and thought, "I hope this works." She told Neji that she wasn't sure if this would work as an antidote to the drug they were giving Tsunade, but she thought it might. He had told her, though, that he trusted her judgment. She didn't believe in herself as much as other people did after all these years. After a short time, Tsunade seemed to change his mind. What is going on? Where am I?" Hinata let out a happy sound. "I didn't think it would work, but it did." He growled, "Hinata, look at me," which made her focus back on her job. She said, "What is going on here?" Over and over again. Sorry, she replied. She wanted to say a lot but didn't have time. Rock Lee was sitting on the other side of the street from the building where Naruto's bosses were waiting. With no sound, he reached down and undid the straps that held the weights he usually wore on his body. He never looked away from the building or the 2 Anbu guards who were standing in front of it. From the inside, he knew that many of the older people in the village would be eagerly waiting for Naruto to finally show up. "What have you done for the past 4 years?" As he put the weights to the side, he thought to himself. He wasn't in a good mood. He usually spent his days happily practicing and getting stronger. He only took these weights off to keep his ninja way safe. He took them off today to keep his village safe from itself. Neji had come up with a pretty easy plan. He was going to meet Naruto at the gates. Besides Shikamaru, he was the only one who could make Junin. Neji was going to meet Naruto at the gates and take him to the sign where everyone was meeting. After that, they would stop any resistance they came across on their way back to the council meeting. The Hokage was going to be saved by Hinata. It was likely that Tsunade wasn't being closely watched because no one was supposed to know where she was. Lee got the part of the mission that was the most dangerous and that only he could do. He was going to get as many of the council guards' attention as possible and then fight them away from the council building. He was okay with that part of the plan, but not with the next part. After the signal, he was supposed to meet up with everyone in about 5 minutes. Afterward, the Hokage and his other friends were supposed to protect him from the many Anbu and Junin level ninjas who were likely to be after him. He might be able to handle 1 or 2, but any more than that and he'd pass out quickly. He would really be on a timer if he had to open the gates. It was too bad that no one in Konoha could sell him alcohol. He might be able to kick all of their behinds and destroy the building at the same time if he boxed while drunk. Neji wanted him to wear a silly black outfit, which was the only part of the plan he said no to. He planned to wear his green jumpsuit if he was going to do this. He couldn't be happy in anything else. Plus, he had said that his nice guy pose would work, so failing wasn't really an option. He was in the spring of his youth, so it was fine if they wanted to ID him. That wouldn't work for long. When Guy Sensei came back, they would pay a heavy price. He stretched after getting up. As he looked up at the skyline for the signal, he began doing push-ups with one hand to keep himself busy. One of the 2 Anbu guards finally came over because they were interested in what was going on across the street. "I have to ask you to leave, kid. An important prisoner is coming any minute," the man said, his voice a little muffled by his mask. Lee said he wasn't guilty. "I can't do that. I promised Guy Sensei that I would do 1001 handed push-ups and 5,000 squats if I couldn't do that." He was about to continue with a long list of promises he had made to Guy before he left on his mission, but a flash in the distance cut him off. He thought, go time. For the Anbu, it seemed like Lee was doing push-ups in front of him 1 second and then the teenager's foot hit him in the face the next. It wasn't clear to the man what was going on in the time between. Lee crossed the street in an instant. The other Anbu guard was just lifting his guard to block Lee's punch when the green beast of Konoha quickly changed attacks. There were 3 seconds in which Lee was able to knock out 2 Anbu. They were shocked at how fast he was going, but it didn't last long. Finally, they were in Anbu. He was a Chunin, even though he was the fastest and best at taijutsu. The cages had not yet passed him because he had one major flaw. Lee still wasn't able to do the most basic jutsu. Lee kept working on his mission with a groan while the 2 Anbu were still getting right back up. This was already going to be a lot of trouble, but he was going to make things even worse. When he kicked the door open, the council and a group of older ninjas were shocked to see what they saw. He snuck into the room quickly and kicked the council chairman in the face with great pleasure. Lee thought, he'll feel that in the morning. At least half of the ninjas in the room ran after him when he flew out the door again. Having that should help us when we get back here. He wasn't able to finish his thought because the Anbu was doing jutsu at the door. Lee never heard the man yell out the name of the move, but Anbu didn't do that very often either. They were very good at killing in silence. The next instant, when the ground beneath him became slippery, he knew what it was. As he slipped, he cursed to himself in private. His momentum carried him back across the street to where the whole thing began. Before he came to his senses and looked up, there were about 12 ninjas ready to beat him up. He was almost sure he was in a lot of trouble when he had an idea. Lee reached to his side and grabbed one of the weights that he had taken off his legs. These guys didn't see the first few rounds of the Chunin exam, and the next time I took the test, I didn't have to take them off. This will make them happy. With all the muscle he had built up over the years, Lee jumped to his feet and swung the weights like a weapon. It hit one man right in the chest, sending him flying down the street and into a nearby building. If he lives, that will be some broken ribs. There was a moment of worry for Lee. He didn't want to kill any of Konoha's people, just hurt them a little. His group of angry ninjas worked harder the next time he swung the weights to avoid getting hit. Lee was getting tired, so he threw the weights into the crowd and hit another man. He then decided it was time to go to the meeting place. I hope Hinata's cure works. That's too bad Sakura's not here. The first people to get to the meeting place were Hinata and the Hokage. Hinata thought that Tsunade's attitude more than made up for the fact that she still seemed to be recovering from the drugs she had run. She was incredibly angry. Hinata's ears would have been as sharp as her eyes, so she would have heard the rough details of how Tsunade planned to get back at the council members who had betrayed her. When Hinata's Byakugan saw a group of 11 people running this way from one direction and a group of 4 people running right behind them, she quietly cut the Hokage off from his rambling. She began, Tsunade. Sama? Tsunade stopped talking in the middle of his rant and said, I think, well, the other groups are almost here. She looked off into the distance and narrowed her eyes in a determined way. Rock Lee then screamed out of the trees and hid behind the monument a moment later. His attackers came out of the trees behind him and were determined to hurt him. Thank God you're here. He yelled. Even though I am fighting with the fists of justice on my side, they are really out to get me. When they saw who was standing next to him, they stopped in their tracks. Take a break, Lee, Tsunade told him as he moved toward the crowd. They moved back. One of them said, Tsunade. Sama. As he was about to say that he knew the Hokage had been drugged, the man stumbled over his words. I thought you were. He said. She asked the man to finish his sentence. Captured? Drugged? Tricked by the council so you could kill a child because you were afraid of him? The group moved back even more. One of the men yelled, Come on. It's a toss. Up. That demon stole our families. Are you all just going to let him walk right back in? The other people in the group didn't understand that makes sense. Someone else yelled, Are you kidding? That's the Hokage. His team had just arrived behind the group of people when he turned to run. Neji only said, Glad to see you are well, Hokage. Sama, to greet him. The group of people who took over Konoha stood back to back. The Hokage was on one side, and the Hyuga clan prodigy was on the other. Shikamaru and the Sandfan girl were standing behind them. When the man came out from behind Neji, it made things look even worse. Without a word, Uzumaki Naruto walked toward the group with his hands in his pockets. Kit caught up to him. They were sure the little fox smiled at them. You know lying about that is a capital crime, right? They would have run away then if they could. Too bad that Shikamaru had caught them in his shadowbind while they were all focused on Naruto's scary words. Tsunade didn't wait around. Tie them up and knock them out. We can get them when this is over, and then they will get what's coming to them. The others did what they were told, and Shikamaru held the shadowbind. Tsunade reached out to Naruto. After giving him a close look, she took a moment to feel his chakra. Now that she was sure it was really him, she let out a relieved cry. She hugged the man in front of her tightly and said, I thought you were dead. It was so hard for Naruto to breathe because of how strong the woman was. Then Naruto answered, or tried to, You should know better than anyone, I'm a little harder to get rid of than that. It was more of a gasp for air that came out. He said in a quieter voice, I missed you guys. You have no idea how long it's been for me. Tsunade looked at him more closely and saw that he had beard hair on his chin. It's only been a day, but it's already bitchy. This wasn't a 16-year-old's face. Naruto was no longer held by Tsunade. She asked Naruto about the fox that was scratching his ears at his feet, Who is your new friend? It stopped and looked right at her when she asked. Naruto said in a vague way, I will explain later. She was pretty sure Tsunade wouldn't like this one. Naruto looked around and saw that everyone was almost done binding their enemies. Their friends showed up to join them. Naruto knew Rock Lee, but the girl who had been with the Hokage had her face covered. After all these years, Naruto noticed some things about the girl that he probably wouldn't have paid attention to when he left on his mission 8 or 4 years ago. It's most likely Sakura. Chan. Before I left, she worked with Tsunade a bit. I bet she is very strong now. The girl took off her mask just as he was sure it was Sakura following his own thoughts. Naruto was in shock. Hinata's face no longer had the baby fat that stuck to her cheeks when she was younger. She was really hot even without her irises. The girl said, Nah. Naruto-kun. But it was still weird, Naruto thought. It would be interesting to see how everyone had changed and grown while he was gone. Hinata ended with, Welcome back. She stopped for a moment and tried not to blush. Well, why are you so old? But he did admit that she was perceptive. But then, what else would he expect from the Byakugan? I will explain later. We still have a mission to finish and a coup to put down, right? Tsunade agreed by nodding. Yes we do. It would be too mild to say that the council was shocked when Tsunade, the Godem Hokage, walked into the chamber. They thought she had been drugged and locked up, and the people who were supposed to help her with Naruto's treatment were out on some kind of mission. When Hyuga Neji walked in right behind her, they were even more shocked. They thought he would be one of the most reliable people to bring Naruto in after he blew the Chunin exam so many years ago. What they thought was real was shattered when Uzumaki Naruto, who was tall and thin, walked through the door with a pet fox. As Tsunade walked across the room, no one spoke. She kept her eyes on the head of the council the whole time. The man was still taking care of the wound that Rock Lee had given him about 10 minutes before. The Hokage, a Genin, a Chunin, 3 Junins, and a group of rebel Junin and X. Junin ninjas stood tall and proud. Tsunade only asked the head council member, "Hit your head?" The man said, yes Hokage. Sama, being careful not to look into Lee's eyes. The Hokage hit him in the face with her huge strength before he knew what was going on. Most of the people in the room began to sweat. Some men in the crowd yelled at Naruto, "Hokage, please, you must see reason. This man is a danger." "Yes, he is," the Hokage said. Before she continued, "A danger to our enemies. A danger to this ongoing war with sound. A danger to you perhaps if you don't start treating him with respect." They all backed away. She finished yelling, "If you're afraid of danger, you should look at me." Naruto tried not to laugh. She had more to do. When did it become acceptable practice to drug the Hokage when you think you are smarter than her? If you thought that you could take control of this village long enough to do your dirty work and then just give it back, then you should think again. She yelled. They would have gone away if they could have. They would have run if they could have. Naruto and Neji were in the way of the door. "Hokage," someone on the council said first. With a glare, Tsunade shut him up. He told Hinata, "Go to my office and bring me the files on Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke." Hinata confirmed with a nod of her head and then ran to get what Tsunade had asked for. "Naruto, come here," she called out. The crowd moved back as Naruto walked toward the front of the room. Tsunade told him to sit down when he got to the front. He did what he was told, but his face showed that he was confused. As she spoke, Tsunade turned her steely gaze back to the rebels in the crowd in front of her. "I am going to settle this once and for all, and this is how we are going to do it. Naruto is on trial for high treason, charged with forcing the last of the Uchiha clan to defect to Orochimaru. Everyone in this room is also on trial for high treason, the charges being an attempted coup against the Hokage. There will be only one guilty party." Everyone in the room squirmed in their seats now, excluding Naruto. Everyone knew who was going to be the judge. One of the men yelled, "That's not fair, Hokage." "Sama. We already know how you will decide." "Oh no," said Tsunade, "it will be fair. His peers will be the jury. Rock Lee, Neji, Shikamaru, Tamari, and Hyuga Hinata will sit in judgment. They know nothing of his condition, so you can spin it however you want it. They will see the truth." Naruto began to sweat. He didn't want his friends to find out about the fox. But these people had to change their minds if he wanted to live in peace in this village. "Deal," sneered one man with confidence. Just at the right time, Hinata came in with the files Tsunade had asked for. Rock Lee told her what was going on after she gave them to him. Tsunade said, "Let's start. I will now read Naruto's file." She took a big breath in. It was easy to see why the 5 teens were shocked when she told them that the strongest demon in the world was sealed inside a baby Naruto. There was a bit more doubt in Temari's eyes as he rubbed Kit's legs for the umpteenth time. She kicked the animal away when it winked at her. Kit gave her a mean look and then trotted over to Hinata. "Why do all of my teachers have sex?" While he watched, Naruto couldn't help but wonder. He was more worried about how his friends would react to the news. It took everyone a moment to get used to Rock Lee's sudden yell, "That's amazing. You mean Naruto saved our village when he was a baby?" He then smiled and gave Naruto a big thumbs up, before saying, "Good job." Naruto thought to himself, "Well, at least I know he's handling it well." He smiled sheepishly and scratched the back of his head. He looked at both of their faces. Tamari was nodding and looking at Naruto with a new sense of awe. Gaara was sick with the same thing, and look how he turned out. Shikamaru could see that everything was coming together now. There was a reason the Anbu were scared of Naruto's fox, and the older people were reacting badly to hearing that Naruto was back. All of this made sense to him. He usually thought with his hands down, so he did that. The people in the village would care most about what he had to say because they knew how smart he was. As usual, Neji's face was blank. But his cousin's wasn't, and Naruto could see tears coming out of her eyes. Is she scared of me, or is there another reason she's crying? He was curious. He lost the smile he had been wearing because of how Rock Lee had reacted for a moment. First she looked at the other people in the room, then back at him. Now that they know, you can make your case against him, Tsunade told herself with a smile. This is where they'll look like crazy people who are always on guard. One man stood up right away. He literally spat out his accusation with a voice filled with hate and anger. He pointed a mean finger at Naruto and said, "That man killed my wife." Shikamaru was the first person to answer. It was a quiet question, "When was your wife killed?" Tsunade thought to herself, "I'm lucky that he's here. There is no one else I could think of who would ask the right questions." The man spat back, "When the Kyuubi attacked, of course." "Didn't you hear what she just said?" "I heard her point out that Naruto was a baby when the Kyuubi attacked, and that when the Kyuubi was defeated it was imprisoned in Naruto's body. I never heard her say that Naruto crawled out of his crib and strangled your wife, a capable ninja, with his bare hands." Shikamaru spoke up. Tamari smiled and thought to herself, he may be sexist and lazy, but he's smart. That person on the council must feel really stupid. He did. The fact that he sat back down and stuttered shows that. All the other people who were going to make some other ridiculous claim against Naruto also seemed to back down. Another man got up and was ready to show that Naruto was dangerous. He is crazy. The demon inside him must make him unstable. He could snap at any time, most of the people in the crowd agreed. That is something they should all be able to agree on. Neji spoke up in this case. Has he killed anyone in this room? Evidently, the answer was no. If he was really so unstable he wouldn't have put up with this, and probably could have killed you at any time. Besides, he would have killed me when I taunted him in our fight during the Chunin exam. He must have been using the demon's chakra then, since I closed off his tenketsu points. Yes, Naruto said, he had been using the chakra at that time and had full control over his mind. The villager's accusations were shot down one by his friends, who stood up for him over and over again. It was becoming more and more clear where this was going. Hinata was the only one who hadn't said anything yet. She finally got the courage to stand up, but there were tears in her eyes. You should all be ashamed of yourselves. All I can do is remember all the hate you poured on Naruto as a kid and how he still managed to smile and try hard. His greatest dream in life is to become the Hokage so he can protect this place, and this is how you repay him. He has more courage than anyone else in this room. She had more to say, but wept sincere now. She stood up straight and said, enough of this. Then she turned around and spoke to the council. I believe we have heard ample proof defending Naruto's character and his love for this village. In front of me, I have the file on Uchiha Sasuke. During the Chunin exam that he participated in, Orochimaru marked him with a cursed seal. It's a miracle he even survived it. That is the reason he defected, his lust for power and revenge. These are traits he has carried all of his life, and you know it. Naruto tried to save that boy, not destroy him. She sighed, watching the expressions on everyone's faces. They thought about what had happened tonight. Once they knew what they had done, one of them stood up and hung his head in shame. We apologize, Hokage. Sama. I'm sorry, but that won't do, Tsunade said. All council members who were involved in the attempted coup are dismissed from their posts. Elections for the council will occur next week. You, she said to the commander of Anbu, are also dismissed. Hyuga Neji will start tomorrow in your place. Since I can't afford to jail you in the middle of this war, all Junin and retired Junin will report to my office tomorrow at 1,200 hours for team assignment. You are all getting pressed into double duty. If you don't feel capable of duty, you have my permission to pack up your stuff and get the hell out of my village. Now get out of my sight, and go tell your friends at the monument what happened here. The group of ninjas left the room with shame. Some were truly sorry for what they had done, while others were thinking about how to get out of the village the next morning. All of them would no longer bother Naruto. U5, Tsunade told them after the villagers left, has sworn not to tell anyone about the Kyuubi. Your other friends don't need to know. They agreed. After a short pause, she said in a softer voice, see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock for new assignments. Thanks for your help. I'm glad you all saw enough of the truth to join Naruto. Neji raised his hand and said, thank you, Hokage Sama, for letting us help him. The group waved goodbye to Naruto and left the room while chatting about nothing. Tsunade asked Naruto, where the hell have you been for the last 4 years? Naruto was shocked and started to explain, but Tsunade stopped him. No, not now, it's late. Go get some rest, your apartment is still empty. No one wanted it after you left. See me tomorrow morning at 0800. You can give me a full report on where you've been, and tell me where you found this fox. She left yawning and Naruto was alone. After she left, Kit said, that was a pain in the ass. That's okay to say again. It makes me nervous too. Naruto left the building, and Kit was right behind him. They took the same path home. Of course, the door to his apartment was locked. It was 8 years ago, but he couldn't remember what he did with the key. He thought he had thrown it away. He was lucky that he had not locked a window. He used his chakra to get up the wall, walked up 3 stories, and slid into the window. Kit was ready for him to open the door. The other lights blew out every time he turned the switch on and off. The sudden burst of energy was too much for them to handle after being idle for 4 years. He crossed the small room and let Kit in by opening the door. The fox said, it took you long enough. He entered the room and took a look around. I can't believe you live here? It was nicer in your stomach. He replied, it does seem a bit small now, huh? He randomly picked up trash that he had left on the floor as he walked around. As a child, he wasn't very clean. The place looked good enough after about 20 minutes of cleaning, and he put his futon back on the floor. That was the only thing that interested him at the moment. What do you have to eat in this place? I'm starving. Kit stated. Naruto was shocked when he saw him. He asked, are we getting lazy now that we're free? There is a whole forest full of woodland creatures out there, you can't really expect me to spend money feeding you, can you? Open it then, Kit growled, pointing to the door. You are going to have to install some kind of door for me so I can get in and out. As Naruto didn't really pay attention, he said, sure, whatever. He was interested when she talked about food. It hit him as he opened the door to let Kit out that he hadn't eaten since the morning. The ramen never went bad, which is good. He thought it didn't, though. Having eaten 3 bowls, he decided it was time to go to sleep. He had to give his report tomorrow, and Tsunade looked like he was ready to be given a task right away. That means Konoha needs a lot of help. He took off his shirt and put his money in his pockets. Then he laid down on the futon to rest. He closed his eyes and went to sleep. It was too bad it wasn't going to last. He was awake and alert when the doorbell rang softly. I forgot that Kit was still outside. It looks like I do need to put in a door. He got up and walked over to it. He quickly opened the door and asked, what's the big deal? You could have slept outside for one stinking night. When he saw who was at the door, his eyes got really big. Kit was standing there with a grumpy face, but Haruno Sakura was standing on top of him. The shock hit Naruto. She said, so it's true, you're back. Kit ran into the room quickly and sat down in the corner. I just reported back from my mission, and I heard some people talking. Is it really you? Yeah, he said with a smile. He said, it's good to see you. There was no doubt in Sakura's mind that it was really him after the confirmation and smile. She rushed forward and hugged him while crying. I thought I had lost you. I thought you were dead. She hit his bare chest with her balled up fist to end each sentence. He frowned when he thought about telling her about Sasuke. I thought I had lost you both. When they saw each other last, he said he would bring Sasuke back with Rock Lee's nice guy pose. His promise to not kill Sasuke would have made him more likely to use his last bit of strength to scratch his forehead protector. About that, Naruto began, eager to share what had happened in the Valley of the End. She spoke up for him. No, it's my fault. I knew you weren't strong enough to fight those sound ninjas, so I shouldn't have asked you to go after him, she said, making him angry for a short time. She didn't know how strong he was. She didn't look to see. Sakura took a step back and looked at him carefully. Her eyes went to the nasty scar on his right breast, where Sasuke's fist had pierced him. When she finally calmed down, she asked, "Who did this?" He said, "Well." He didn't mean to start the conversation this way. At some point, he was going to tell her that Sasuke was a traitorous jerk who wanted to kill his friends to get a strange ninja ability. He never had the chance. It took everything Naruto had not to blow up. Was Sasuke hurt too? We haven't heard anything since it happened. Even though he had been missing for 4 years and was thought to be dead, all she cared about was Sasuke. He was going to be soft because he knew it would make her feel bad. The same thing made him change his mind. To be honest, I hope Sasuke is dead. She took a step back as the color left her face. She looked closely at his face to make sure it wasn't some sick joke. No, it wasn't. She was shocked and asked, "Why would you say that?" Again she cried, "You want to know who did this to me?" He did. He used the Chidori to stab me. He wasn't kidnapped, Sakura, and he wasn't trying to slow me down. He said he was going to kill me, so he could unlock some new power for his Sharingan. He's gone, and I can't believe you are still pining for him after this long. It was getting hard for Sakura to keep herself together. Lies, she snarled. Naruto didn't want things to go this way. It was the cursed seal. Neji's report said he was being carried in a barrel. It had to be against his will. Sakura, the truth is, Sasuke was weak. He wanted power at any cost, and he took it, betraying us all. I didn't kill him then because of the promise I made to you, but I will kill him next time. He never liked either one of us, and I don't know why you can't see that. Naruto knew he had crossed the boundary. She wasn't going to want to talk to him for a while. Okay, that's fine. She needs some time to think, and she never really liked me. As a child, I liked her, but that doesn't mean I should spoil her now. At his last word, Sakura's pain turned into anger. How can you claim Sasuke was weak? He was the strongest ninja I knew. You were dead last, and you couldn't even come back from your mission.
He was marked by Orochimaru.
You wouldn't know anything about dealing with an evil seal and staying sane. Naruto laughed out loud, which he knew was wrong right away. If she didn't already dislike him, she did now. It's best to seal the deal now. He told her, "Go home and grow up. I know more than you think." With that, he shut the door. I bet she never thought I'd say that to her. It made him want to laugh, but he couldn't. Kit told the kid from across the room, "Forget about her. I always thought she was a bitch anyway." Naruto didn't answer. He felt nothing after the conversation. He tried to fall asleep but couldn't. He wondered what time it was anyway. He went to sleep around midnight before the wake. Up call. He looked at the wall clock and saw that it was 4:30. I need to get rid of my stress. Putting on the black shirt that was next to his bed, he left the room. I will be at the practice field, he told Kit by accident. It's still early. There should be no one there. He walked through the empty streets because he instinctively knew the way. Naruto learned a technique from his training with the Kyuubi that really took his mind off of things and pushed him to his limits. He was shocked to see Rock Lee when he walked onto the practice field. He told Lee, "You were up early," as he punched a log over and over. "Yeah," asked Lee. "A ninja who practices hard will always prevail. One of Guy Sensei's rules to being an effective shinobi." "Good rule," Naruto replied. Rock Lee looked at him for a short time. Lee saw that his eyes were red with sadness. Lee asked, "Are you okay, Naruto?" "Yeah," he asked. Lee knew he was lying, but he wasn't going to say anything. "I'm going to warm up for today. If I accidentally get in your way, I'm sorry." Lee said yes. What kind of warm up would make him get in my way? He stood in the middle of the field, put his hands together in a familiar shape, and said, "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." 3 copies of himself appeared next to him. As they moved around him, they took their places. This next thing Rock Lee couldn't believe. Shadow clones of 3 people attacked the real Naruto very quickly. He was desperately trying to defend himself. Naruto's clones all seemed to have the same impressive taijutsu skills. The only difference was that if any of them took a hit, they would all blow up in a puff of smoke. As Naruto blocked attack after attack, he forgot all about Sakura right away. To avoid getting hit, you had to keep your mind clear and move quickly. And then there were times when he saw a chance to attack back, but the clone that he was aiming at would dodge the blow. Over the years, he did a lot to teach his clones how to dodge instead of block. In battle, it made them very hard to get rid of, but in this practice, it only helped him in one way. They had to dodge because he could block. It seemed like a very long time went by before Naruto finally hit one of the 3 clones. The clone blew up in a bright puff of smoke as his foot hit it in the face. One of the other clones used the chance to pull out a kunai and hit him in the face. Thought quickly, Naruto dove under the attack. It's too bad that the other clone was ready for that. It hit him behind the left leg and cut quickly, putting him on one knee. Naruto heard Rock Lee gasp in shock, and he remembered that Lee had never seen his healing work. Naruto pushed himself up into a backflip with his good leg to get away from the 2 clones that were still trying to get blood. Just as quickly, he ran his thumb through the blood on the back of his leg. He then sent his chakra to the wound to heal it. He quickly sealed his hands and yelled, "Weapons summon no jutsu." When the smoke cleared, Naruto stood with his back to the enemy and held a long red katana. With a mean smile on his face, he rushed forward to do something. Naruto learned how to use this weapon from the Kyuubi over a period of time. There was no scroll to sign, but blood was used in the summoning, and only demon chakra could be used to call the weapon. This meant that Naruto knew of only 2 people who could call up the weapon. Someone with a Sharingan would almost certainly not be able to copy the jutsu. Many years ago, when the Kyuubi was young and still exploring the world, he would use a technique to change into a person and blend in with the crowds. The Kyuubi made this sword himself and used it a lot when he was young. It was now Naruto's to use. As soon as he pulled out his weapon, he quickly pushed the 2 clones back. The katana had a much longer range than the 2 kunai that the clones came with. As Naruto swung, one of the clones jumped back out of the way. In an instant, Naruto put his foot down and used the swing's momentum to spin around on the other clone. The clone was caught off guard and could only use his kunai to try to block the attack. After that, Naruto used the weapon's special power. Naruto was able to make the weapon stronger and reach farther by pouring his chakra into it. All of that chakra was used to make an almost invisible sword. Like part that was just as deadly as the real thing. The blade went straight through the kunai and caught on the clone's flesh for a moment before quickly moving through the smoke. This time, he was ready for any attacks that might come through the smoke, so he fell and swung his sword around. The attack was blocked by the clone, but Naruto was ready. Now that Naruto was up against one opponent, he was free to focus on attacking. The clone tried to attack him with 2 wild slashes, but Naruto blocked the first one with his sword. Naruto dropped the sword quickly as the second strike was about to happen. He took the clone's hand by the wrist and his sword blew away in a puff of smoke. He turned into the guard for the clone and hit his last double in the face with his fist. Naruto limped over to where Rock Lee was staring at him with his mouth wide open. He was drenched in sweat and gasping for air. Lee asked, "Is that your warm-up?" "Only sometimes," Naruto smiled back. It had worked, and he was too tired to think about what had happened before. "I better go get a shower and get ready to meet the Hokage." As Naruto walked back to the village, Rock Lee smiled and waved goodbye. He went back to punching the log and said, 1246, 1247, 1248.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.